everybody. Welcome back to the Damn Yankees podcast produced by Seven Atches Productions. It is Thursday, October 26th, and we're back after a long time. I'm Megan. That's my brother Ryan. And over there is our baseball dummy, Cliff.
Hi.
Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back. Yeah. Ryan's had a lot of things going on, so I blame him. It's pretty much his fault for us not being on here for a while, but he's had some
Humble
lots
brag,
of life.
went to Hawaii.
Yeah.
So we were there, and then basically came back with longest flight ever. Getting back. That'd be a whole long story. But anyway, we got back, and then immediately it was packing and moving. So we're actually in our new place now. And so it's just taking this long for us to get boxes emptied and put away and to have actually any type of sort of settling that we were actually able to do this. I just haven't been able to put anything together for a bit, but
including your thoughts, I'm sure. It's a lot to move everything.
But I think this is good timing too, because now we get to talk about, the most important series of the year is coming up. So
that's right. Yeah, the timing. World Series starts tomorrow. Hopefully, this will be out before it posts. That's the goal. But if not, whatever. So, but yeah, the World Series starts tomorrow between the Rangers and the Diamondbacks, and we'll talk about that a little later. But the last time we podcasted, the Yankees season wasn't officially over yet. It had been over for a few weeks at that point, really, but it wasn't officially over. So we do just want to cap that off, I guess, with talking about our best and worst. Do we want to talk about worst first and then best, or we want to be true Yankee
best
fans and end pessimist? Yeah,
I'd rather end pessimistically.
All right, so best moment. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I can go first.
Go
my favorite moment, and it's really not a specific moment, it's just been the season, with everything that this season has been. Mostly, I was going to say for better or worse, but it's been mostly worse.
Worse.
The good side of it, I think, was watching Gerrit Cole dominate the way he did.
For sure.
I don't think and what was nice seeing with Gerrit Cole, and I wish I had ran the numbers beforehand, like his final year numbers versus other years. I really felt like he wasn't striking out people like he was in Houston when he struck out over 300 people. There might have been some substances to help with that. But
some sticky ones.
And I don't even think that he broke last year's strikeout record for the Yankees, but I do think home run numbers seemed very much down. He did not get himself. I think in previous years, and we saw it a lot last year, when something minor happened, and as inconvenient as it was, I think Gerrit Cole would unravel, and an error would happen in the infield. IKF error at shortstop was not uncommon last year, and to follow up in his error and compound it with a 2-run home run when we should have been out of the inning. We saw that a lot from Gerrit Cole last year. I don't think that happened this year. So that was a lot of fun to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool to see that he kind of got his emotions in check. And I don't know, I think I remember an interview from him kind of crediting just being a dad of two, right? And just seeing the world differently or whatever. So that's cool. And I'm looking at his stats, and he did lead in innings pitched, which is absolutely true. He was a workhorse this year.
I don't think he's been out. He missed a start.
No, he wasn't injured. He didn't miss his start. He 209 innings pitched. There was at least one complete game in there. Mm-hmm. He was definitely a joy to watch. Game. And that's right. That was the banana game. And he was great to watch, and also stopped the bleeding so many times.
Yeah. We probably we need it. I said earlier in the year, we were at the Washington Nationals if it wasn't for Gerrit
without
Cole.
Gerrit Cole, for sure. So yeah, that's a very good one. My overall pick, I think, was watching the kids play between Volpe, to Dominguez and all of them up. Like
that
was exciting. Yeah,
Jason
we felt like
first week was really fun to watch.
Yeah, until he needs Tommy John surgery. But that week that we saw of a preview of Jason Dominguez was certainly probably the most exciting I remember feeling, at least especially in the second half of the year and maybe all year. The other moment that I thought about was the Volpe walk-off. I think it was like a sac fly, and like Judge hit a home run earlier, and then it was in May. I don't even remember what team it was, but I just remember afterward, it's like Volpe's first walk-off, so Rizzo's running up and like throws him over his shoulder, and then Judge is like over there like a concerned mother. Like I just thought that was like a fun little
it was a fun picture for sure.
It was a fun picture, and like I feel like the vibes were the highest around that time.
Yeah, they were very good at that time.
Yeah,
I had one more on my list, which was so Judge had just come back after his first injury. I think it was the oblique or hip. Yeah, it was whatever. It was during the Rangers game when he had that weird slide. He got injured, came back for the Toronto series, hit a massive home run, and broke the maple leaf.
Was that this year?
That was this year, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Wow. That was
and
fun.
why it feels like 2 different years is that at that time, the Yankees had consistently been winning series.
That's right.
And 2 series later, Judge plays the Dodgers.
Oh God! And then the whole and so
that's one of my worst moments.
So speaking of the worst moments of the year, I think probably it sounds like on both of our lists, Judge running into the fence out there or into the concrete wall.
I have
there
injuries
in
again
Stadium.
as my worst moment, but that first one was like I have a sub thing there. It says injuries again, and then Aaron Judge toe. I've got Stanton's hamstring, Rizzo's concussion.
Yeah.
So
those were my two top 2 worst. It was hard to pick. You could close your eyes and throw a dart on the calendar, and I bet you something bad happened that day. But there are plenty of tough losses and everything. But I think the Judge injury was a huge blow, coming right after Rizzo clearly having a concussion and then still playing through it minus a few days, I guess. But so that whole debacle was pretty awful. And then I think if I was going to pick a game that was the worst, I would think it's the Miami game after we went, where we were winning, and had we won, probably would have kept hopes up that it was possible, and it kind of was possible for us to have made the
somewhat
playoffs.
Of my 2.
Yeah,
it's kind of my 2 on my worst.
Yeah, that loss to Miami in game 3 of that series was the nail in the coffin, one of the worst losses of the season, because they came back after being down by 7 or something crazy, 5.
Yeah,
we were up big. Yeah, that was bad.
So my 2 was the 9-game losing streak, which that was the beginning part of it. I think we had watched the second loss in the 9-game streak, and then that was the third one, and we proceeded to lose another 6 series against teams that we should be beating. I think Washington was in there as well in that losing streak.
Yeah, Colorado, and there's a bunch of
and what I put it, basically that 9-game losing streak cost us the chance for the playoffs, just like you said. That was kind of the nail in the coffin. Because when you looked at the rest of the season record-wise, we finished with 82 wins.
Ryan.
If we finish 5-4, we're at 87 wins. Oh, wow.
We lost you for a second.
Sorry, I was talking the whole time. Sorry.
Should he say?
I'll repeat it. I'll repeat it.
Probably fine.
Yeah, go ahead, repeat it.
I can repeat it if not. So I just said that
anyway, right?
the 9-game losing streak was worst part of the season because it put us out of the playoff hopes. At the end of the year, we finished with 82 wins. Had we taken 5 wins of that 9-game losing streak, which is about when you look at our winning percentage over 9 games, we would have won 5 games if we were playing correctly, playing like we were the rest of the season.
Normal. Yeah.
Which wasn't great. I mean, 5 out of 9 wins is not great, but it's better. That puts us at 87 wins, which only puts us 2 games out of playoff hopes. And if you have that team in the last 2-3 weeks of the season, that's only a game or 2 out of playoff chances. I think we would have been able to see a much more vibrant, a much more alive team that wanted to. I mean, because the Yankees knew for the last 2 weeks of the season, 3 weeks, 4 weeks of the season that they were out of it. They did enough to get themselves back over 500. But I think had we split that, 5-4 during those 9 games, by the end of the season, we would have been in contention with Toronto for that last wild card spot.
Yeah, we ended up 7 games out of the wild card spot, and
so like I said, 5 games puts us 2 games away.
Puts us right there, and you're going to play different if you're that close. So yeah, that was, that's what I think. I even remember thinking, what? Imagine if we hadn't lost 9 games in a row. Because at one point, when all the kids were up. And
things were starting to turn around.
That's a whole other conversation about how maybe the kids should have been up, and you shouldn't have been having Bowers and Calhoun and McKinney and all of them like holding up your stupid lineup. But hey, let's not talk about that right now. And they could have gotten in if they didn't lose 9 in a row. That's a good pick for worst moment of the season.
And my number 1, and I can find it. I don't know if you have another one, but I'll finish my worst moments off with how I started. We wasted Garrett Cole's Cy Young season. That's my worst. I mean, again, it's kind of an overall thing of the season, but we wasted his Cy Young season, which is a little disappointing. I'm still glad that we had the Cy Young season through all this, but disappointed that we wasted a very good year from Cole.
Yeah. I think the only thing that was left on my list was, the embarrassing trade deadline, but that,
Yeah, that was embarrassing.
So
that was a frustrating. I kind of put that one out of my mind because of how bad it was.
How bad it was. Just like unbelievably just
stupid. Everything was stupid.
Un-Yankee-like, stupid, and historically un-Yankee-like, recently Yankee-like apparently, but anyway, there was a lot of bad moments to pick from, so we could probably go on and on, but we won't. So, so the Yankees are the current Yankees are a far cry, and they've got a lot of work to do before next season to be like our anywhere close to our dynasty Yankees. Trying to transition into our next topic here. Yeah, so
very good. So I knew where you're going.
Seamless.
To give you an actual definition of what a dynasty is in sports, so yes, I will be an annoying Yankee fan right now. Yankees won. Shut up. The Yankees won 4 games.
4 games in 7 years.
4 World Series in 5 years. And
that's how you guys act. Like they've only won 4 games in like 7 years.
Actually, they won 4 in 5 years, didn't they? 4 and 6.
Yeah, they won 4 in 5 years, right? 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000. So 5 years. And they won all those except 97. So, and then they played in the 2001 World Series and lost. They played in the 2003 World Series and lost. So, they made the playoffs in 95. I think wild card? Why can't I think about when
95 was the wild card, and they got bounced in the first round. That was Donnie Mattingly's last year.
Yes.
Jeter was sitting on the bench for that game.
Watching them lose, he didn't want to do it ever again, and he did his damnedest to make that true. So from 96 to, we could say, 2003, if you want to include what's that? That's 7 years? Did I do math right? 8 years? That's 8 years. They won 4 World Series, went to 6 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's pretty damn good. You can even narrow that down to, in 5 years, they won 4 World Series rings. And that is the last time that has been done in the last, that it has not been done since. There have been no back-to-back.
Yeah, I was going to say, no back-to-back. That was a three-peat, and there hasn't been a back-to-back since
actual
then.
dynasty. You have one of the best teams to ever do it in 1998. Yes.
So to pose the question, is the Houston Astros a dynasty?
And
so we know the answer.
What was it? I gave it away, or there's a saying. But yeah, I mean, Yankee bias aside, like I totally understand. Oh, she's a Yankee fan. Like she just doesn't like the Astros. True, you are right. But I do not think that they're a dynasty for real. Like they made the ALCS 7 straight years, and that's damn impressive. And am I pissed off that the Yankees couldn't do anything close to that? Absolutely. It's shameful, ridiculous. Totally agree. Yeah. But you're not a dynasty. You won 2 World Series in 7 years, and one of them is tainted beyond belief.
Yeah. So the same thing that I was going to say there too is just that I would say it's just short of a dynasty.
Tainted. Have you guys ever talked about this before? I know it's not ringing a bell.
Never heard. No, never brought up those trash bangers.
I would claim them to be just short of a dynasty. Again, 7 years they went to a world. In the 7 years they went to 4 World Series. They won 2, as you said. And even if we're not mentioning the cheat, like if just throw away the cheating scandal and pretend that it was 100% legit
on the up,
as the commissioner of baseball, Robert Manfred, would choose to believe. 2 World Series in 7 years is not enough to be a dynasty. And and so I have 2 things that I would point to prove this case. One, the Red Sox have done it twice in the previous 2 decades. They won 2 World Series, and even in shorter time frames too. I mean, they won 2 World Series in 4 years, in the early 2004, 2007. And then they did it again in the following decade in 2013 and 2018. And so no one really considers the Red Sox teams to be dynasties. The 2010s, the teens Red Sox really wouldn't be considered dynasties because they had so many down years in between. But the 2004 to 2007, they were a very good team throughout that. But they only won 2 World Series in that time. No one calls them a dynasty. So I also try to look it up because I'm like, okay, I don't want to be just a biased Yankee fan. I don't want to be someone who's just, I hate the Astros, 27 so they're not dynasties. Yeah. I don't want to be that. But I've looked up dynasties. Like I looked up several different websites that, sports, like people who are sports journalists and different sports websites that were like ESPN and others that were ranking dynasties even among all the other leagues. And what I found in common is basically each dynasty has at least 3 or more rings during their dynasty era, with the exception of the ones that had 2, and they were only 2 if they did it in 3 years. So like the Detroit Pistons did it 2 and 3 years in the 80s. That was considered a short dynasty. But that's the only ones that consider 2. It's not 7 years apart. They're 2 years apart.
That's fair. Like you have to show that you are a dominant team. That and now the counter argument is in order to get to the World Series, you had to get through the Houston Astros. True. But people did. And people have. The Texas Rangers got through the Houston Astros this year. And that's not to say, yes, the Yankees were beat during their dynasty phase, but they won 4 World Series in 5 years. Like you're right. If you're going to do 2, it's in 3 years. And I would say a dynasty would have to at least have 3. But 2 and 3 years would do
2 if it's a short short stint.
Short time frame.
I think the other one,
you're like a dominant team.
Yeah. Like people kind of are on the fence when it comes to like the San Francisco Giants dynasty, the Bochy dynasty.
Yeah. So if you're going to bring up 3 wins in a certain time frame, the Giants would technically fall into this time.
Had really bad years in between those rings. That's a unique group of team, and we can get off topic and talk about that one, but that one is a really unique one because the even years, that team was unbeatable. During those odd years in between, they were very beatable. Like losing almost 100 games beatable.
Yeah, it was very strange. Yeah, 2010, 12, and 14, the San Francisco Giants won the World Series. But yeah, the 2011 and the 2013 teams were awful. And 2014, I think they're a wild card team, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So but I would be more willing to talk about the Giants being a dynasty than the Astros being a dynasty. Were they now? Then there's an interesting part of the conversation too. Like the Houston Astros of this current conversation could probably beat the Giants, if I'm going to be fair, of that time frame, the 2010 to 2014 time frame, but that team, which was mostly held together in that 6 years for the Giants, won 3 in 6 years. Or 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years.
That's 5 years. 3 in 5 years. So like that reaches, I think, a conversation of are you a dynasty? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and I think most people
Houston Astros are just butthurt.
I would say most people do put them into the Giants into the dynasty group just because of that third World Series. And again, I really like when I was looking at it, 3 championships got you to that dynasty in a less than a decade, got you to that dynasty. Now, the real question is, and I think this is a real conversation when it comes to the Astros, that I feel like some people, and this is even as someone who wants it to be done, I feel like some people are jumping the gun on. Are the Astros dynasty or whatever great run, however you want to call it, is it over? When people talk about the great Astro team, is it -2023? I think it's too soon. Like, just in my opinion, I wish it wasn't, but I think it's too soon.
My Yankee bias wants to say, yes, they're done. It can't be. No more. Dusty's retired. I don't know. Verlander, is he coming back? I have no idea. Like, they've got people they have to extend. But then my brain says, they'll figure it out.
Until the Astros. And that's always people's comment, is like the Astros are inevitable. Like, you hear that a lot. So until that ends, I don't see that they're done yet. And this team could become, like, and again, I hope it doesn't happen. That's my bias side of it. But this team could become a dynasty. It's not, I just don't think it's there yet. Like, for example, the Spurs, I don't think would have been considered a dynasty had they not been so consistently good and then won another championship in 2014. Because basically, like, when you look up NBA dynasties, the Spurs pop up there, and they're 99 through 2014 because they were good every year from 1999 to 2014. And I think they only won maybe 3 or 4 championships in that time. Most of them, like, kind of like the Yankees in the early 90s, and then they didn't win again. The difference between, like, the Yankees having won in 2009 is they had a couple bad years post their first 4 World Series until their 2009. But the Spurs were just really good.
The same core team. Yeah. But
the Spurs were really good, and it was the same core team that won in 2014. So could the Astros continue to be good, maybe continue to go to the CS, the championship series, continue to get to the World Series, maybe win 1 or 2 more World Series in the next 5 years? They could, and if they do that, then they're a dynasty. I just don't think you can look at a team that's only won 2 World Series, lost 2 World Series, and call them a dynasty team.
Right. Yeah. A very, very good, very impressive juggernaut of a team, not a dynasty. And I think this offseason is key for the Astros that, depending on
they're going to have a lot to figure out.
Yeah, they'll have a lot to figure out. Okay, I think it's Bregman and Altuve, right? They're the big free agents at the end of this year. Is that right? Or am I think at least Bregman. And,
you're probably right on Bregman.
I can see him making a team-friendly deal, and whoever, there's a second contract that's up, and, it'll just be, oh yeah, look at that. They want to be Astros forever. They're going to stay, and now we've got room to spend big on something else. And look at that, we're the kings on the hill again. And it's just that's just how it's been, and that's how I kind of feel right now. So I would never count them out. I think you're right to keep the door open and not say that their dynasty run is closed. Like their chance at becoming one is not closed, unfortunately. So maybe though that isn't true, and they don't do what they need to do this offseason and somehow think that they're the Yankees and make really dumb, boneheaded. They don't need to do anything. Just run it back.
Yeah.
Find that diamond in the rough and try. Yeah. Hire your boom.
Go after the Jake Bowers.
Manager vacancy. Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, I mean that would be my final input. Is it's not the answer to that question is not closed as far as like them being a dynasty. It's not yet, but they're not done. I don't think. Yeah. I don't think they're done making their case.
That's fair. One thing that I think is ridiculous is part of the, the whining that I've seen on Twitter, at least from some Astros fans, is, it's not fair that they got bounced from the ALCS because they're one of the best teams and blah, blah, blah. But that's really more of a Dodgers
fans
thing.
Making that comment?
No, maybe I'm making that up. They're still like, we're a better team, and they think that, I don't know. Like, they don't think that
Astros fans are Astros fans, but I was going to say.
Maybe that could just be me. I've seen that other places.
They won the same amount of games as the Texas Rangers, so I'm already fuming when it comes to Dodgers fans, so don't get me started on that.
Don't get me started. Maybe I'm making that up. Maybe I saw like one person say it and I completely applied it to the entire fan base.
But at least that moves us into the next thing, because the Astros did get bounced by the Rangers. There's been a lot of conversation. I think right now and we'll get into more of the World Series predictions and like our opinions on that. But the World Series does have the two lowest the lowest win total from the regular season in
ever
MLB history.
Yeah,
excluding shortened season.
2020.
Like 2020 and whatever that one of the strikes in the 90s that shortened, or the war that shortened.
Okay.
It was something like, other than shortened seasons.
Okay.
It was the lowest number of wins a team had.
I did see it, like they have like a combined like just over 500, like 523. I don't know, 5 something record.
Oh yeah,
pretty low.
I don't know about the winning percentage. I know that they're less than 180. I think they're 179 wins.
Oh, okay.
So
combined.
Yeah, which I think makes sense. It's something like that. It's under 180, I know for sure.
Okay. So they're low. That's a low scoring team, but they both are low scoring,
low winning team,
low winning teams. But they made it through the World Series or playoffs and got.
So it just brought up a lot of questions when it came to it, and so I think.
Well, the famous thing from our bald leader is that the playoffs are a crapshoot, and all you got to do is get there, and anybody can win.
Yeah.
And so why spend money trying to be the best if the playoffs are just a crapshoot and anybody can win? So now I'm going to preface that and say, like, I actually believe that the playoffs are a little bit of a crapshoot. Anything can happen, but that's not a reason to not try to be the best and win your division. So that's what we're going to talk about, actually.
Yeah. So first, I would say playoff structure, because should the playoff structure be changed? Like what? Because a lot of people are putting out there, different fans from across the MLB are putting out their opinions on what should be changed. Some to even the drastics of like they want it almost to be like Premier League soccer from Europe, where, well, if you win all the games in the regular season, then you should just be the winners.
I think that was like a Nate Silver comment. I was like, what are you saying right now? Because he said he wanted MLB to, quote, contract the playoffs and make the regular season worth more. What? Why even have a playoff? Have the playoffs then, if you're going to contract it like that. Just
and look, I love Premier League. I love European football. I love watching Manchester City and those teams, them win the Premier League every year. But winning the Premier League was not as fun as when we won the Champions League, because we had been fighting through it's a knockout round robin style tournament that you're playing the best of the best in Europe, and they won it last year, and that was really exciting. Like, to watch those games where you could be eliminated. We're not looking at the NBA like we don't want to be the NBA finals, like the NBA finals, you pretty much get into it, and the playoff structure, who's going to win for the most part. Right. Maybe there might be some differences, but you get a really good team put together, like the Warriors for those 6 years, where they pretty much were. They were it. Like, they were making the world's. They were making the NBA finals. It's a fight to see who finishes second.
Yeah.
What team is LeBron going to be on? And that's the team that's going to finish second.
That's the team Steph Curry's going to beat. Yeah.
But anyway, the only thing that I would change, and I said it before the postseason started, so this isn't anything different, is I would just get rid of division winners getting automatic top 3. I think division winners should get their automatic bids still. But I just think they should be seeded based off of record, no matter what. Yeah. And I also think, on top of that, I did not add this in last time, I do agree with the complaints about no reseeding after the first round. So in the NFL, they have a similar playoff structure. Well, now they have 7 teams in the playoffs, but they've had a previous similar structure with 6 teams in the playoffs, 2 teams get a bye. But what happens after the first round is you have basically the teams that are not moving on. So you have 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5 play each other. The highest remaining seed afterwards plays the lower of the 2 seeds, plays the 2 seed in the next round. The lowest remaining seed of the first round of playoffs plays the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
In the second round. Because then you get like the thing where the Rays, the Rays lost, right?
Yeah, they lost. Yeah. The whole thing about the Rays and the Rays, Blue Jays, and the Orioles all won the same amount of playoff games as the Yankees and the Red Sox did this year.
Yeah, that was fun.
0.
The last AL East team to win a playoff
game? The Yankees. That's why they hate us. When we say stuff like that.
It's a Yankee podcast. I had to throw it in. But so I guess the point would have held if the Rays had won their series. They would have had to go and play the Orioles, no matter what, because that's where they were in the bracket.
Oh, okay.
But because the Rangers won, they went and played the Orioles. But the best team in the playoffs is it has to go through the best wild card team now has to go through the best.
Sure,
team.
And
that doesn't
so
make
I think
sense
maybe
to me.
Maybe that's the key to it, is the seeding issue instead of 5 days off for the best teams being the issue. Or the Dodgers and the Braves both
those fans just need to shut up.
And it was like, look, I was actually kind of rooting for the Braves. They were a fun team all year. And
Acuna was great.
Yeah, that would have been fun. Yeah, I would love to have seen that.
He's not yet, but it's obvious he's going to be MVP.
But then they maybe just a little bit of their youth got to them, and
their cockiness
said some stuff, and and Bryce Harper was like, "Oh, really?"
Bryce Harper
beat
said,
them.
You.
What an amazing series! It was
that
was
a fun
series.
one to watch. I loved watching Bryce Harper stare down Arcia.
That was so good. That was so fun. That was good. So it was like, okay, Braves, you got beat 3-1. You were the best team in baseball, right? They were the best team in baseball, or was the Orioles better?
No, they
were
the best
better, right?
Record. Yeah, by 1 win, I think.
Okay, and so it's like, you were the best team in baseball. Why, you should have been able to at least go 5 games, or the full 7 games or whatever, right? Like they did go 7. I don't know. Like
5.
I feel like I thought they'd go 7 once they reached the DS. They changed that.
It's 5 games because the team lost 3-1. Best of 5
right,
is 3.
Best of 5, you have 3.
Yep. It goes 3, 5, 7, 7.
3, 5. Oh, 3, 5, 7, 7.
Yep.
I don't know why I thought it would switch to 7 as soon as the wild card stuff was over. But anyway,
they lost. Like
they lost, and they choked. Now, see, like the difference to me is I think the Braves choked in the playoffs. They did they should have done a hell of a lot better than they did. They got let their emotions get to them, and they choked. The Phillies,
though, were the hottest team coming into the playoffs. The hottest team. If you take out the first 3 months of baseball, the Phillies had the best record in baseball.
Yes. They were, ever since like the Trey Turner standing ovation thing, they couldn't lose.
That was kind of the moment that turned everything around.
They were
Which,
crazy.
By the way, Yankee fans unfortunately would never.
Could never. That was I don't know if you've seen Elemental, but there's a scene that's very similar to that in there, and it reminded me of the Trey Turner thing. It was like, the Yankees, that could never happen. But yeah, so when the Phillies end up meeting up with the Diamondbacks, and you think the Diamondbacks, but the Diamondbacks are also a hot team. So 2 hot teams collide into the playoffs, which is also that was a fun series. That was they're not hot.
The Diamondbacks were cold.
I mean in the playoffs.
In the playoffs,
I didn't mean at the end of the right. I meant they were hot at the moment.
I don't know. They are a exception to the rule because typically the Phillies are the type of team that should make it. Because everybody was talking about Diamondbacks were like, oh man, they're going to get laughed out of it. Like they made an entire TikTok making fun of all the people who claimed that they were going to, this was the most, one person claimed it to be the most pathetic choke job of a season for the Diamondbacks ever.
Dodgers.
The worst collapse of all time is what they were calling the Diamondbacks.
Because they were supposed to win the division, right? And because they were
beating the Dodgers for a while. And so they collapsed there. Everybody was like, they're going to be out. I think Mad Dog, Chris Russo, or Chris, whatever his name is, Mad Dog, claimed that he was going to retire on the spot if the Diamondbacks. That's just it's a very weird situation with the Diamondbacks. But at the end of the day, the best team in the playoffs, the 2 best teams in the playoffs, are in the World Series.
Yeah.
Because they played the best out of anybody.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks had to go through one more round than the Braves did. Or, would have, whatever. You know what I mean? They had to go through the wild card round to get to where they were there. So they had to be an extra set of team, or an extra team. I can't speak right now. But I don't understand. I guess that's why my brain is glitching, because I don't understand the thing. Because it's because you had 5 days off, and because you're the best team, you think you should get...
The big comes from the 5 days off is the one complaint. I think the second complaint is... what was the second complaint? There was 2 complaints. I know 5 days off was a big complaint. To me, that one pisses me off. It doesn't... It's a stupid complaint.
I did not like. I know that a 1-game wild card series is exciting and
it was
but
stupid.
I hated it. There's so much variability, and that is the overall.
Baseball is not meant to be played in 1 game. Outcome of
it's not meant to be played in a 3-game series.
Yeah, a 2-game series is weird. Even
it's
regular
so
season, right? A 2-game series is weird because it's 2 games.
Even if you go to even if you go 2-0, if you sweep them, it's like, okay, but you only won 2
really
games.
A sweep.
So the baseball, that's why there's 162 games. The nature of baseball is highly variable. It just is. You're hitting a ball being thrown 100 miles an hour with a stick in a field of 8 other players. I'm not counting the catcher behind the ball. And so there's so much variability. So to think that you can predict exactly what's going to happen in the playoffs based on 162 is just funny. That's why I agree with Baldman in saying that it is a crapshoot once you reach there. But I do not think that is any reason to sacrifice being the best team in baseball to make it into the playoffs.
And nobody would. No, like you ask any of these teams, like
the players anyway.
Braves fans might be bitching, Dodgers fans might be bitching, but if you ask the Dodgers players and the Dodgers coaching staff if they're going to try to go out and try to win only 89 games next year to make the playoffs, they would say, no, that's stupid. That?
Yeah.
They would say, no,
and by the way,
that's not the way to win.
Yeah, by the way, the Astros had 5 games off this year and made it past the first round.
Yeah,
the Astros and the Yankees last year made it past.
Yankees won 99 wins. They were the worst 99 win team in I think in MLB history. They were the coldest team coming into the playoffs. I think they had a losing record I know they had a losing record in August. I don't think they had a losing record in September, but the combined 2 months, we still had a losing record. They were a cold team, and they still managed to win after a 5-day break, just as these teams got this year, and they still managed to win their series against the Guardians.
Against the youthful,
fast
Guardians.
They led the league in stealing last year. Now it was before they added the advantages for the stealing.
Right.
But anyway, my thing with the 5 days off thing is it was only 4 days off before this new structure changed.
Yeah.
You're telling me 1 day off is going to
do more day.
Anything more. And
sounds like you need to figure out how to spend those 5 days better if it's really affecting you that much.
And if we're talking about 5 days, yes, I mean, with anything that comes in life in general, there's going to be advantages and disadvantages to it. So yes, 5 days off, even though it's just one more day,
different strategy that you have to have.
You are not playing baseball for 5 days. You haven't not played baseball for 5 days in
baseball's about consistency,
6 months.
So it is important.
So yes, there's a little bit of a disadvantage there. But if you're going to pretend as if there is no disadvantage to having to play a series right after 162 games, you're lying to yourself. Like, this is the way I look at it. The Miami Dolphins, the Miami Marlins are a great example of why. And if you ask the Miami Marlins, I mean, they ended up losing in the playoffs. But if you ask them, would they rather have gone into the playoffs as the wild card team, being able to play right away, or would they have wished to be in the Braves position, even right now, having the Braves lost, just like they did? Would they choose, which would they choose? Be a wild card or being a bye team? They picked being a bye team. In their last week, the Mets grounds crew screwed up a game where they were supposed to get the tarp out on time. They didn't. It ended up washing out the game.
Messing everything up.
Yeah.
Always
I think they did it on purpose, but...
Oh, really? Oh.
Well, I mean, that may be my Yankee bias, but I think they did it on purpose. I think they were doing it to screw the Marlins' chances. But
petty.
The Marlins had that game did not get finished, and because it was so close to the end of season, they were not facing the Mets again, so they couldn't do a doubleheader to finish that last. I think it was honestly 1 inning that they had to play.
I'm remembering this now. Yeah.
Okay. And so it was too close to the end of the season where they couldn't really reschedule the game. So it was kind of we'll wait and see. The Mets and Marlins only played 161 games this year. They only completed 161 games this year. Had the Padres won one of the final games of their season, the Marlins would have had to play that game against the Mets. They would have had to go to New York. They would have had to put somebody out there, likely their starter, likely like one of their best pitchers, either their best starting pitcher or their best bullpen pitcher. They would have had to throw him out there, get the team out there.
Yeah.
And it would have been the day that's supposed to be the day off between end of season and their next day would be
the wild card the next day. Yeah.
And so that didn't end up happening because the Padres lost, but had that not happened, like the Met and the Marlins were preparing for this scenario, so they had to structure their entire week trying to, one, make sure they don't lose games, to make the playoffs. So they still had to put their best out there, but also not put too much of their best out there because they're going to need them to be ready for game one.
You save some bullets, right?
If you're telling me that being a clinched bye-week team is somehow like that's not an advantage, to not have to worry about that at all and being able to do a full reset. You're going to be able to have your ace on day one, whatever ace you pick for day one. It's not anybody else's fault that the ace they picked for day one for the Dodgers was Clayton Kershaw, who can't get out of 2 innings. Clayton Kershaw is a legend, but he is
in the regular season.
In the postseason, he has been historically terrible. Clayton Kershaw is, when you hear people talk about non-Yankee fans, when you hear people talk about how Garrett Cole is in the postseason, that is actually how Kershaw is in the postseason. True. I think he's got almost a 7 run ERA.
Ooh. I think, I mean, that sounds right anyway. Like, I mean, he's just historically, he blows game. Like, it's just.
Yeah, I don't think he made it out of the first inning this year.
I think you're right. Yeah, the Kershaw does not pitch like himself in the postseason. And for whatever reason, whether it's like a change of routine or
that's not the playoff structure. That's not the playoff structure.
No, that's
a Kershaw issue. And that's the Dodgers issue for and I get, like, I mean, he's your ace, so you're gonna want to hope that maybe it's been a fluke every, for the last 18 years or 16 years of his career. But it's not.
Yeah. I mean, it's not an excuse. The teams that were division winners that lost, the Dodgers are old, like you said, didn't do anything to improve. So why would you think you're going to win?
They want Ohtani for next. They want Ohtani this winter, so they didn't get anybody last off season, which, hey, I get it. Like, I wish the Yankees were not paying players to go get Ohtani. We know that they're just not paying players because they don't want to pay for anybody.
Someone told them once they bought championships, and they were like, "Oh, we shouldn't
do that.
Do that. Let's not do that anymore. Let's make McKinney our savior." Okay.
Yeah. So, like they're going after Ohtani, so they didn't add to their roster, right. Which it's a strategy, but you can't complain about it when it comes to the playoffs and your team, which the Dodgers were the oldest team in the playoffs. When they can't
even field once you get there.
Yeah.
And then
the Baltimore Orioles were the youngest team on the other end, where they didn't have the experience. They were facing off against a manager who's been there. He's part of the Giants' weird dynasty, Bruce Bochy.
Right. That's right. That's right.
So
and then pitching, yes, they have to face the Rangers, and their pitching was exposed as being, the Orioles pitching was exposed as being weak, like it was pretty much all season. But their hitting and their just athleticism got them through so many games to be one of the best teams in baseball. It just didn't work out in the postseason. Like, right. And then the Houston
Braves
Astros
just choked.
Yeah, the Braves just choked. The Houston Astros, they got past their first series, but then they play the hot Rangers, and it was a really good series. They go
no
max
team won
games,
in the home games,
and that's right. No home wins in those 7 games. That was weird.
In a championship series, no one won at home. I bet the Astros were really missing those trash cans.
You're right. Like, oh man, yeah. I mean, that was definitely strange, and it's like similar with the other series, right? Like, only one home win in the Phillies Diamondbacks series.
I think so. I think so.
Like, yeah. So, like, very weird.
Maybe
CS.
2. I think it would have to be 2.
Maybe 2. Okay, for them to have to play that.
Well, to get all the way to 7 games, I think there would have to be 2.
The fact that they didn't win one of those last 2 is like, woo. Like the Phillies. I mean, I can't believe it. Like, I don't think they choked. It was just, I don't know. To me, there were opportunities lost.
I said at the beginning of the year, and so I don't know when it was, but I said the Diamondbacks play this version of baseball better than anybody. I don't remember when it was, but it was early on when the Diamondbacks were doing very good. They steal bases better than anyone. The only reason why the Braves, I think, ended up stealing more bases than them is because of Acuna, pretty much single-handedly. But
Acuna had just
they utilized the new rules better than anybody. I think the rotation and the bullpen did a very good job. To me, the Diamondbacks are a boring team in the sense that like I was rooting for the Phillies, and I think Phillies were my playoff. They were my World Series prediction at the beginning of the season. Because they're an exciting team. I enjoy watching Harper. Like I said, I mean, Harper staring down Arcia was one of my favorite moments of the postseason. I think that they were just a really fun group that played really fun baseball.
40, you have 40 home runs, 70 stolen bases at first time ever doing that.
Good baseball. Like they don't have guys who are overpowered.
Right,
they have guys who hit.
All good. Yeah,
they have guys who hit. Both sides, the right timing.
You've got pitchers who can come through at the right time too, and I know Carroll is supposed to be a Cy Young candidate, but he still doesn't see right, isn't he?
Carroll?
Isn't that his name? No, Carroll is the
Carroll's the rookie.
I'm getting their names all mixed up. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Rookie of the Year candidate.
Zach Gallen, I think.
Gallen or Garrett? Gallen. Sorry. Gallen. Yes. I see. That's I feel like kind of your point. Like there's no star power there, but they have very
their
good.
Their biggest star is their rookie.
Yeah, and they're very good players. And I'm sorry I mixed up their names.
Oh, you're good. I was just trying to think before I corrected you. I'm like, is there a player name like? I was like, is there a player name like? Before I sound like a dummy, is there a player name like?
No.
George Carroll, who's a Cy Young candidate. I'm like,
no,
like I thought it was Zach Gallen.
No, he's their rookie. Yeah, Zach Gallen. And I mean, he had funny on Twitter. He told the Phillies fans to hope you have fun buying your next set of tickets, and he sent him a screenshot of the spring training for 2024. Well, it was kind of funny.
That is funny.
But so I don't know. The fans are going to bitch. Fans are going to whine. We're Yankee fans. We'd be bitching the same way. But I hope I wouldn't be using the 5 days off as the reason that we lost.
I think it's stupid.
I mean, I guess once you get to the CS, you can't use that reason for that anyway. But you got bounced in the DS, and you're one of the best teams in baseball. That's on you. Yep. That's not Rob. I don't like Manfred either, but that is not a Manfred problem. Like I just don't think it is.
My only thing that I would change, and I already said it before, is how they seed division winners. I don't think division winners should just get automatically third. Like the Twins should have been the third team. They weren't the third best team in the playoffs or on the AL. They shouldn't have been the third best team in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they should reseed
after the first round. Yeah, reseed.
Yeah, I think you should play 1 through 6 based on record, and then get reseed.
Face off each other before the ALCS.
Right, and then that's how you end up with wild card teams at the end. And if there's anything wrong with the playoff structure, it'd be
that
forcing the 2 best teams to play too early on.
Yeah.
And so if they just seeded it, honestly, like some of the problems might just tease themselves out without the reseeding, but if they at least seeded it 1 through 6 based on record alone, once you get in,
you might have a solved issue there. But I think
you're probably
don't preset which 2 teams are going to have to face this team, because if an upset happens, then they're not the lowest seed anymore. So
true.
You want the best 2 records, best 2 records to face in the in the CS games.
I'd be much more agreeable to that than changing the whole like wild card 3 game structure or having the days off.
What do they want? Do they want just like to go back to the 70s or before, when they had just the top 2 top 2 records face off in the pennant game, and then go to the World Series? So there's just 3 series total. There's the ALCS, the NLCS, and the World Series. Like, is that all they want? Like,
I know. I don't get. It's just, fans bitch things on Twitter seem louder than they are, but it's like, calm down. Like, think before you start yelling about stuff. Like, your team just lost.
Your team lost. and it's okay to be upset about it. You should be frustrated, but don't, like, let's not start making arguments about the wrong thing.
Yeah.
The Braves need to learn not to open their mouths too soon against a guy who will take it personal.
I think that undid them. All they needed to do was say, when Arcia said, attaboy Harper, right? When they won that game with that crazy play at the end of the game, double play, getting Harper off at first when he had rounded second. Like, that was crazy. And go for, like, say attaboy Harper. Let him, like, where he went wrong was saying, like, oh, the media shouldn't have said that. We thought that was going to, we didn't think he was going to hear it. Like, oh my God, man up. Say, attaboy Harper, what are you doing that far off second base? Like, what are we doing? Like, own it.
Yeah.
And like,
I was honestly, like, I lost more respect for Arcia. Like,
I was like, bad
initially
luck,
it was like, oh, well, you know, you're gonna wake up Harper. Like, I don't know, like, I mean, respect.
Yeah, I don't know what you're thinking,
respect to you for like calling him out, but like, you're gonna wake him up in the next game. I'm not really
sure what you're thinking,
like,
but
oh, I said that in the locker room. I didn't even say that with him around, and I wasn't expecting.
I can't believe the media would do that.
That's a boy move right there.
Right?
Like, oh, I'm gonna
you
start
can't believe
talking when people aren't around, and then be like, oh, why did they?
I didn't know you could hear it. Yeah, I was like, I can't believe the media would say something that I said out loud in an open locker room. That
and another player on the team says it's just so disappointing that things in our own locker room can't stay there. Like, what?
What? Like, there were media in the locker room. How did you not see that? Like, you hadn't stopped.
It's
like,
ridiculous.
No. Yeah, that was ridiculous. And it was like, that was funny. Like, it was not like he took, state secrets to the press.
Yeah.
He said, attaboy Harper. I mean, that's kind of funny. And, whatever. Yeah. Own it. And I think at that moment, the moment they couldn't own it was the moment it all unraveled, internally. And
the Phillies, like, to quote Michael Jordan, not Jackson, Michael Jordan,
different.
It became personal. Like, it became personal for Harper, right. And you made it personal, and he was ready to bury you.
You're gonna hit 2 home runs the next game. Like, okay,
yeah.
So yeah. So
all right. We're closing up on our hour, I think. So
yeah, and as we've already touched on, the World Series is the Rangers versus the Diamondbacks tomorrow, Friday, at 8:00 is Game 1. So going to do our predictions, I guess, right?
Yeah. You want to go first?
Sure. My thought.
I don't think it's the Yankees.
You don't think it's the Yankees? Yeah, I think that's a good bet that the Yankees aren't going to win, right? Mm-hmm. Because they're not even playing.
Next year's our year. No, just kidding.
Yes,
I'm not going to be a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Oh my God, every year. Next year's our year. This is it.
Rebuilding year.
Yeah, no, rebuilding that.
No, the Yankees won't rebuild nor build a team to win a championship, and then be like,
I mean, that could be a whole podcast. I do think they try to rebuild in the background. I mean, we do have a ton of rookies.
I know that is one of the things that you and I disagree with is how. I just think if you're in a position where it's time to rebuild, just rebuild. But
yeah,
I get what your point is, but we can talk about that in a different podcast.
That could be a whole different subject for the
So anyway, predictions.
But my prediction is Texas in 7. I just think it's gonna. Both teams are scrappy in different ways. I don't know, and just think it'll go 7 games, but Texas's way.
Yeah, I'm in the same position about 7 games. I think it'd be weird for both CS games to go 7 and then not the World Series to go 7. Plus, it would just be fun to watch it go with 7. But
yeah, I think also the people about this is going to be because it's the lowest rate, lowest winning percentage, fun. Like a lowest rated. I think it's cool, and it's really good for these two fan bases. That
yeah. I think somebody, I don't remember who said it, but somebody said like, yes, it's not the biggest markets in the game, but how you become a bigger market is by getting to the World Series. Like those markets become bigger, fan bases become bigger. There's going to be some little kid who's 6 years old right now whose first experience in Arizona is watching his local Arizona Diamondbacks win a game, and that's good for baseball.
Fan for life. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So anyway, mine is the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
As I kind of alluded to, a Diamondbacks
fan for life.
Fan for life.
That 6-year-old boy.
Yeah. So and I would say probably one of the biggest differences why I can say the Diamondbacks and you probably can't. The Rangers are a great team, and this was a hard decision for me, but I just think the Diamondbacks are just they're very good at playing the structure of baseball that we are in right now. And I feel like the Rangers, too, are a very similar team to the Phillies, and the Rangers or the Diamondbacks know how to beat the Phillies. True. So, I did not. I was not an obsessed.
But they don't
fan.
have Adolis Garcia, and I think that's a big disadvantage for them. Sorry,
that is true. But I was only 6 when the reason why you can't.
I cannot choose the Diamondbacks.
So I do have one question before we close out, and then it'll run us past time if it hasn't. I think we're at 60 right now. But I do have a question for you because I saw this come up recently on Twitter. I think I know Brandon Q posted it.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, because to me the worst year in Yankee history was 2004, losing to the Red Sox. But again, I was not an obsessed fan prior to that, and so for me, like that was my first real big experience with the Yankees was that year, and I had a lot of Red Sox fans, and they
were merciless. I'm sure
they were merciless. So now I know that the Diamondback series was bad, but Brendan Q says that it was infinitely worse than the Red Sox loss. Agree or disagree? Someone who was an obsessed fan through all of that as well. What was worse?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's right. I mean, infinitely worse. Maybe that'd be a little hyperbole, but it was worse. It was certainly worse. Thinking about those two series, I get more heartbroken thinking about the 2001 World Series loss than the failure that was. And when you
do add 9/11 into that,
I mean, I think aspect, that was like the atmosphere of just like it's
you're supposed to win.
Yeah, it's New York. This is the New York Yankee Stadium was just filled to the brim and rocking. I mean, I wasn't there. Obviously, we live in Florida, but like it was just from TV. I feel like you could feel Yankee Stadium, and like you just felt like they should have won. Just in a TV movie kind of sense that was just kind of how it should have. That was the ending
of it should have been. And I will say that that has to be one of the biggest arguments against professional sports being scripted for like teams like the Yankees or stuff like that.
True, because if it was scripted, they would have won.
Should have been scripted. It would
have been that game. So true. And so between that and then just it goes to Game 7, it goes back and forth. You get Mr. November with Derek Jeter. You get the game before that with I think that was the Scott Brocious game that he hit the game-winning home run. 2 game-winning home runs, Game 4 and Game 5 in Yankee Stadium that year, and then you get the Mr. November, first time baseball's being played in November, 12:01. Jeter hits a home run, like. You have all of that. You've got the Yankee. You've got all this conversation. I remember this like the Hall of Famer Mariano Rivera, unanimous Hall of Famer. Obviously, this is before that, but they're comparing. Is his name like BK Kim or BQ? I forget his name. His last name was Kim. He was the closer for the Diamondbacks, and they were trying to make comparisons. Is he the next Mariano Rivera? Is he better than Mariano Rivera? And so when the Yankees, decidedly said nope, and hit game-winning home runs off of him, it was like they just have to win. They're going to win, and then they go to Arizona, and then I just remember I was sick watching Game 7. We're on the East Coast, so it's 1:00 in the morning by the time they're about to lose, and they've got bases loaded. Mariano Rivera in, best player in the world, and 1 strike away from winning, and then Joe Torre called in, infield, pull the infield in, and then Luis Gonzalez hit a little bloop single right where Derek Jeter was standing, and you could have gotten the last out to win.
You make a very good argument for infinitely worse than 2004.
It was crushing because it was like they could just one more strike, and then it was like, no. It was bad. I mean, I feel like Game 4 of the Boston series of that ALCS came down to 1 strike at some point, but I don't know. I feel like it feels like worse because it was so close.
Yeah, and that's one of the things with 2004 that I think gets forgotten. So the Yankees crushed the Red Sox early on in that series. I think they won one of the games 19-3.
The Game 3 was 19, and I remember telling one of my friends, we were watching the series, and I remember telling, I really hope that they didn't just waste all their runs in Game 3, and did I just jinx them? Because they pretty much wasted all their game runs.
Didn't the Red Sox run away with a couple games early on? I know that Mariano blew 2 games. I think Game 4 he blew, and Game 5 or Game 6 he blew. Both to David Ortiz, Big Papi,
I think, twice. And Johnny Damon had that infamous stolen base or whatever in Game 4 that kept the game going.
2 of the games were not close. And so I feel like by Game 6 or by Game 7, it was the Yankees are choking this. It was already known prior to.
I felt and I think maybe you could prepare yourself, because I do remember at some point just going they're going to lose this, aren't they? They can't, right? I feel like
you're in denial, but there was still that underlying
this is they're going to this is what's happening. Yeah.
Versus what you're saying when in 2001,
and they're just coming off of winning 4 World Series in 5 years. They are the dynasty Yankees. How could they lose to the expansion team Diamondbacks in the World Series?
Yeah,
that can't happen in 2001 at that. Yeah.
And in 2001 too, you're saying that for all 7 games to the last strike, you guys. The Yankee fans, we thought we were winning.
Yeah, you thought we thought 5 games in 6 years was happening.
Versus 04 by Game 6, by the end of Game 6, it was we're.
Everyone thought it was 5th ring season. I see, when they got past the Oakland A's in, I think it was the ALCS with the flip, or was that the DS?
That's the Moneyball.
Yeah, that's the Moneyball year for the A's. That's the flip, the Jeter play with the flip. That's the same year. So once they got past that, I remember they got this, it's in the bag. And, I was also a very spoiled Yankee fan. I didn't know too much losing. So it was what do you mean they're going to lose? That's not a question. The Yankees just don't lose. Yankees win the World Series. That's how this works. So, that's how I grew up. But yeah. Anyway, that's more heartbreaking to me. So that's why, long story short, not short, I can't root for the Diamondbacks no matter if they have a changed logo scheme or not,
or whatever it is,
or how fun their team might be, and I just can't root for them to win the World Series. So go Rangers.
Yeah, and honestly, there's a part of me that wants the Rangers. I want the Rangers to win. If I'm making a prediction, I'm going Diamondbacks.
Yeah, I saw this online.
I guess I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I saw someone post on the one hand, I really want Monty to get a World Series ring. On the other hand, I really don't want Chapman to get another World Series ring.
That's a good point of that.
Fair.
And that was last year, right? I want Dusty Baker to get his ring, but I don't want
Astros to get their ring. Yeah. I don't know. Well, at least Dusty Baker can retire with a ring. That's he did a really good job of trying to clean off the.
He did try to clean off
the scandal.
The Astros were very smart to bring in Dusty Baker post scandal because he was the right guy at the helm to keep a really good team together. and kind of clean
Old
up
school baseball.
the mess that AJ Hinch and Carlos Beltran
left them in.
So
yeah.
And Alex Correa too. I forget Alex Correa was on a bench coach. That's right. That is one of the craziest bench groups of coaches though.
Beltran, Correa, and Cora.
Cora and
Correa was on the team, but
Cora and AJ Hinch. But maybe they're only good because of cheating, because that's how Cora won his in the Red Sox too.
2018. So. Yeah.
All right. Well, appreciate you guys listening to us again. If you're still with us after our couple of breaks here this year, but we definitely appreciate all of you guys. Yeah, we're still here, and we're excited for this off season. I think there are a lot of exciting things to come up. We're going to be discussing our
what
great
the
uncle.
Hell will we do in the outfield? Oh, I'm sorry. That
too. Yes, we'll be talking about a great uncle. We'll be talking about what the hell do we do in center field. Is Soto in play? Spoiler alert, no. Sorry, I spoiled that episode already. But yeah, so some exciting things to come. We'll probably be talking a little bit too, like just explaining how off-season stuff works. We kind of did a little bit of it very first episode, but now we'll actually be able to talk about it like as those things come up, like arbitration hearings and like because those will come up, tendered contracts and all that stuff. Yeah. So
real fun legalese episode. Woohoo!
Yeah. But anyway, a lot of cool things to come up. So we'll still be talking probably a little bit more consistently now that things are a bit more settled, and we'll be able to just kind of talk, maybe each week about something fun and exciting. So anyway, follow us on the app formerly known as Twitter at @DamnYanks_pod. That's the same for Instagram at @DamnYanks_pod on Facebook, and also on Threads is at @DamnYanks_pod if you're on there now. So follow us there, like and subscribe to YouTube or Spotify, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
See ya.